What is reality? To some extent, this is what science has always been trying to figure out. And this has often come up in the physical sciences as a quest to understand what is the smallest divisible unit of matter. What is the fundamental building block of reality? Initially, the ancient Greek philosophers thought of this idea of an atom, which means cannot be cut. It is something from which we can build everything else out of, but which itself is indivisible. But what science has discovered since then is that matter is not solid below the quantum level. Matter is largely empty space. And so the atom itself, even though it appears solid, just like this table appears solid, actually it is like 99.999% empty space. So what is it that underlies this empty space? What is it that exists as the pre-material basis for reality, that from which higher order atomic structures emerge? It has to be something that is not fundamentally material. It's not something that you can just keep cutting again and again. This is why a search for the ultimate explanation of reality or even materialism has eluded science, is because they're unwilling to look beyond the scope of their own investigation. They can't see that there is this canvas of creativity, this space of potential and will and intelligence that allows the universe to emerge from it, along with atoms and electrons and protons and neutrons. We are only able to see or consider through the lens of science this material world, whereas in order to actually come in contact with the deeper ultimate reality, we have to wrestle with this concept of what is real. And that is not a scientific question, that is a metaphysical question, which means it's a question which has to do with the most fundamental categories of being and existence. We have to actually use logic rather than direct experience in order to come to terms with it. The CTMU, an advanced theory of metaphysical logic, the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, a theory of everything that was come up with by Christopher Langan, who was widely hailed as being the smartest man in the world by mainstream media, has the most advanced view on scientific reality and can integrate the findings of modern science in a way that modern academia is incapable of doing, because it is unable to see this deeper logic that lies beneath our scientific perceptions. It is indisputable at this point that science has drastically changed our view of reality. Initially, 400 years ago, when Isaac Newton came up with classical mechanics, which is the foundation of physics, we had an idea of a totally mechanistic universe. You just plugged in a couple numbers into an equation, you could predict what would happen next. It was a very orderly universe because everything could be determined by a very small set of equations. But then a couple centuries later, along came this promising young German patent clerk named Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein realized that, actually time isn't an independent variable that you can plug into these different equations of motion, but actually time exists as part of an extended idea of space, that time and space are interlinked, and if you have a drastic shift in one, you will change the other, and that we can't explain these fundamental forces in terms of outside forces acting on the universe, but rather the universe itself is using these forces through its own self-curvature, which exists not in 3 dimensions of space, but in 4 dimensions of space-time. And then, almost simultaneously with these ideas, we discovered that at the very small quantum level, reality isn't quite as solid as it would seem based on classical mechanics or relativity. We discovered that reality seems to exist at a fundamental quantum level as a space of potential rather than something solid. Is that when we are not observing the properties of reality, it exists in this state of flux without definite properties. We can't know the position and momentum of a particle because it exists as an expansive space of potential in between measurements. So when we say this table is real, quantum mechanics would say that that is an illusion of solidity. It's actually mostly empty space. Relativity and quantum mechanics set up this weird dichotomy between a random and a deterministic universe, is that it seems like they're vying for one another, that at the quantum level, it seems like everything is totally random. There's no rhyme or reason to anything that is happening. But nevertheless, we know that all of those quantum systems somehow add up to a deterministic universe at this broad level. And what the CTMU tells us is that this is an expression of self-determinacy, is that systems which are free to determine their own structures will look random at low levels and then will look ordered as they correspond to higher levels, but really the entire thing is directed by the purposeful intention of the structure of the universe, is that the universe exists as a self-simulative scratchpad which is able to freely update its own content and structure in order to evolve and experience reality. So reality is based on self-determinacy and participation, is that we are not just observers within reality, but we are also active participants who can affect its structure and dynamics. And that's what we're seeing when we see these observer effects that exist in quantum mechanics. In the same way, time exists as a participatory agent. It's not like a rail track where space is just hurtling down this deterministic trajectory, but actually time is freely generating these future states of space based on freely changing internal conditions. So it has to apply the intelligence and will of the broader reality system in order to change as space evolves. And so this means that nothing remains from moment to moment. Everything changes always, even when things remain roughly the same, even when my book is staying in the same position as it was 5 seconds ago, it has actually gone through these infinite trajectories whereby it has been refreshed. And that is not the same book that it was when I began this sentence. Like the ship of Theseus. If you replace all of the material pieces of a ship, it remains the same ship somehow. And the reason why it does that is because it maintains the same rules and structure from moment to moment. So time is what keeps reality coherent across time. And the fundamental dynamic of time is this observer participation, where time exists within the mind of conscious observers. Only beings with consciousness are able to experience time and thus participate in the evolution of reality. So when someone like Einstein asks, does God play dice? Is reality random at the basic level? God is the dice. Ultimate reality is both the outcome and the process of that system. It is completely self-determining. So to ask whether it is random or deterministic is to totally miss the point. The CTMU shows that reality has to be self-determining in order to explain its inherent connectivity and universal connection, is that we are all part of one universal self. And that means that there is one identity which underlies everything within reality. That through which everything exists has to be one being, has to be one ultimate reality which can be described using a fundamental theory. So what is reality for us? It is a self-simulation that is connected to our observer participation. We are both participants, observers, and to a limited extent programmers within this world where we exist in the image and likeness of the global reality system and are able to participate in its global dynamics. So humans play an integral role in the evolution and structure of reality. And this totally defeats these scientific ideas which say that mind doesn't make any common contact with matter, that we can distinguish between the physical realm and the mental realm, placing consciousness in a separate non-physical world. Well, actually, that conscious world is the fundamental reality. Our material existence is only an expression of that. We couldn't even experience anything material if we didn't have consciousness, if we didn't have a mind that was able to recognize and perceive and understand the sense data that we're taking in. So there's no divorcing consciousness or mind or will or intention or purpose from material reality. Science does this at its peril. There is consciousness everywhere, that the universe itself is in this process of bright and vivid experience. And this is absolutely true, is that the CTMU supports a kind of panpsychism which shows that there is mind, there is mental structure within everything in reality. And whether or not that is expressed is besides the point. Reality itself is mental, and that means that everything is, to a limited degree, conscious, or at least participates in consciousness. We all exist in a self-simulation created by this universal mind. That means that we all share a common identity. We are all, to a limited extent, the entire reality system existing and experiencing itself. We are all interconnected. We are all one. Just like how neurons are the fundamental building blocks of consciousness, they're these simple specialized cells that facilitate all mental functions. We are like neurons in the universal mind. We are part of the experience of the Creator by itself. The consciousness of the reality system does not emerge from any particular perspective, but rather as a self-organized, emergent feature of this collective experience of reality by itself. Is that there is this higher order consciousness that is present within the global identity of the reality system, and then self-distributed into every part and aspect of reality, including conscious observers. Every part and aspect of reality is directly connected to the greatest source of power and knowledge and existence. Everything is made in the image and likeness of the universal mind, including participatory observers. Reality is not stupid. Reality is exceedingly intelligent. You would never have any idea of human intelligence or human observation or human creativity unless intelligence and observation and creativity were not already latent properties of reality as a whole. Everything which is expressed by the system in some way had to already be a property of the system. You are not smarter than reality. You can't be. This is like a teenager who can't understand why he's so brilliant and yet he came from such complete dunces of parents. It's like you actually have the exact same intelligence and structure that it was given to you by that which created and generated you. We are just unable to recognize it because we are too caught up in our own experience to consider this deeper level of metaphysics. And this soulless science, which has consumed Western academia, completely ignores the deeper picture of reality. We are all part of the same universal self, and yet science draws us inward to ourselves, to pure materiality. And this leads to what Alan Watts called the fully automatic model of the world. This is the story of reality given to us by mechanistic science. It's a story of separation, which says that the world consists of separate parts which interact with one another as different parts of a machine. The universe itself is a machine governed by impersonal laws devoid of meaning or purpose. And this is often contrasted with a similarly mechanistic view, which is this simplistic understanding of theology, which depicts the universe as created by a divine craftsman, God, that completely separates creator from creation, is that there is an external deity who does not participate in the life or consciousness of the world, but rather creates the world and then leaves it to run on its own, kind of like this divine watchmaker idea. And the thing is that neither of these are incorrect. The story that science gives us and the story that religion gives us both make sense within their referent context. The CTMU fuses these stories and takes the best elements of both, combines science and religion into a story of unity and interbeing. We are not isolated entities inside of our skins. I am not this meat suit separated from the world, but rather we ourselves grow out of the universe like apples grow from an apple tree. So this dualistic separation between self and the environment is a complete illusion. We need to remember that our fundamental universal identity is the identity of creation. We are that through which everything exists. We are simply an experience of reality by itself. So reality is locally confusing itself. Through us, it is giving itself a false impression of what is the deeper ultimate reality for the purpose of ultimately arriving at a deeper understanding, to participate in the self-knowledge and self-experience of the Creator. So when we remember our fundamental universal identity and behave like it, meaning that we will not have this, terrible hatred and separation that we feel towards one another, but rather we will see ourselves as part of one unified organism that is experiencing reality. We are all one. Only then will we truly fulfill the purpose of reality. The ultimate reality is not material. It's not even mental. It is that exploration itself. It is the creator. When we say God is one, we don't mean there is one God, like there is one book or one pair of headphones. We mean that there is one ultimate identity of reality through which everything exists. And that identity, that being, is sovereign. That being is creative. That being is loving and intelligent and is the creator and king of all of existence. The fullest expression of that divine life is reality as a continuous dynamic process. And humans, who are created in the image and likeness of God, are patterns within the cosmic flow of energy and matter. Our current stories, this story of separation, fosters alienation and fear. It conditions us to be mechanistic response machines rather than participating in our own destiny. The CTMU is a philosophy of freedom and unity with the universe, inspiring harmony and sovereignty for every human in the world. Perhaps the greatest change in our worldview will come from shifting from the perspective of I came into the world, I am someone who is a visitor here, to I came out of the world. I am the fruit of reality, and I have come here to be of service to the universal self. I did not come into the world, I came from the world. Thus, the ceramic and fully automatic models, these stories of science and religion respectively, are fused into a self-modeling and self-organizing, creative and purposeful universe in which we are intrinsic, meaningful participants. True reality is found in direct experience, in the here and now. This is reality. Reality is this. The CTMU is the logic of human life and experience, and it presents a much more bright and vivid worldview than any prior given by science or religion. Reality is infinite consciousness and imagination, and its progression, its evolution, is simply the more bright and vivid experience of the Creator by itself. All experiences, objects, and phenomena are constructs of consciousness itself. The physical world is illusory. It's non-duality. The ultimate realization of this perspective is peace. It is paradise. Knowledge and experience of ultimate reality is freedom. It is the purpose for which you were created, from which you were born. If you're interested in learning more about this kind of stuff, you can join us at our nonprofit educational platform, Compatriot Academy, in which we delve into the principles of the CTMU and offer a full-depth metaphysical education with 10-plus courses, some of the top instructors in the world, and we have everything that you need to take you from 0 to 100 in your understanding of reality. Thank you. God bless. Let the light shine forth in the darkness. May the peace of our Father in heaven be upon you. Like and subscribe.